Rights and duties are inseparable. It's like एक ही सिक्के के दो पहलू. So when you have certain rights, so it is mandatory to have certain duties also. It's not like that you are only enjoying the rights and when it comes about the duties, you're like, no, I don't want to do any kind of duty. I'm okay with enjoying my rights only. So that's not how it works. So in today's video, we're going to understand about the fundamental duties that have been incorporated in the Indian Constitution for the citizens. So today we are going to understand that in detail. So let us move towards our very first slide. So the rights and duties of the citizens are correlative and inseparable. The original constitution contained only the fundamental rights and not the fundamental duties. When we talk about the very beginning of our constitution, when it was first adopted, there were no such provisions, no such chapters were included, which were explicitly talking about the duties that the citizen should be doing, but later it was inserted by the amendment. In other words, the framers of the Constitution did not feel it necessary to incorporate the fundamental duties of the citizens in the Constitution. The reason behind not incorporating them back then, because the framers of the Indian Constitution didn't feel the need to add them at that moment. That's why it was excluded uh, from that period to be inserted into the constitution. However, they incorporated the duties of the state in the constitution in the form of DPSP. But we have the DPSP, we have certain guidelines, we have certain principles that have been dedicated or for the state to govern the state for the better development of the country. Later in 1976, the fundamental duties of citizens were added in the constitution. But by the year of 1976, the fundamental duties were added into the constitution. In 2002, one more fundamental duty was added. But in 2002, there were one more fundamental duties that has been added to the other duties that has been incorporated earlier. The fundamental duties in the Indian Constitution are inspired by the Constitution of erstwhile USSR. So when we write uh, regarding our Indian Constitution, we all know that it is a borrowed way. For example, the various provisions has been taken from the other countries by seeing the demo of other countries. So same like the fundamental duties have been inspired by the Constitution of erstwhile USSR. So when you are preparing a note or writing an answer on fundamental duties, this part you have to mention in order to bring more good marks. Notably, none of the constitution of major democratic countries like USA, Canada, France, Germany, Australia, and so on specifically contain a list of duties of citizens. But there were some other countries also where were very popular, where were very powerful, but they also didn't have the proper chapter on fundamental duties. The Japanese constitution is perhaps the only democratic constitution in the world which contains a list of duties of citizens. But it's the Japan only that they have a certain list of fundamental duties that has been incorporated and for the citizens to follow. The socialist countries, on the contrary, gave equal importance to the fundamental rights and duties of their citizens. It's only the USSR countries that they have um, given equal importance for both right and duties as well. Hence, the Constitution of erstwhile USSR declared that the citizens' exercise of the rights and freedom was inseparable from the performance of the duties and obligations. Either said, if you have certain rights, you have certain duties as well. So it is inseparable. You cannot enjoy only your rights by excluding the duties. If you have certain rights, then you have to do certain duties also. Let's move into Swaran Singh Committee recommendations. In 1976, the Congress Party set up the Sardar Swaran Singh Committee to make recommendations about fundamental duties, the need and necessity of which was felt during the operation of the internal emergency 1905 to 1977. So till now we got to know that before there was no such chapter included in our constitution, but the need was later came in and it was the responsibility was given to this committee to make a report with some recommendation with the need with the significance to add a proper chapter to our Indian Constitution. The committee recommended the inclusion of a separate chapter on fundamental duties in the Constitution. So the committee said that we don't have any part left where we can incorporate it fundamental duties. Therefore, they recommended that we should add another new chapter where we'll be including the fundamental duties for the citizen. It stretched that the citizens should become conscious that in addition to the enjoyment of rights, they also have certain duties to perform as well. So the committee declared that the citizens are aware of their rights only, but it's the high time that they should be aware of their duties as well. The Congress government at center accepted this recommendation and enacted the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act in 1976. So back then the Congress was in power and they have accepted the recommendation given by the Swaran Singh committee, and by the 42nd Amendment Act brings lots of changes including the fundamental duties. Here one thing you need to remember, the 42nd Amendment Act is also known as the mini constitution of India, because during this amendment there are lots of changes that have been made to the Indian constitution. The Congress government at center accepted this recommendation and enacted this amendment added a new part, namely Part 4A to the Constitution. So in which part we have fundamental duties? That is Part 4A. In Part 4A, we have incorporated fundamental duties. The new part consists of only one article, that is Article 51A, which for the first time specified a code of 10 fundamental duties of the citizen. So it is very easy to remember because we have only one article regarding our fundamental duties. It is 51A, and in that article we have 10 duties for the citizens to follow. The ruling Congress party declared the non-inclusion of fundamental duties in the Constitution as a historical mistake and claimed that what the framers of the Constitution failed to do was being done now. So the then committee or the then government said that it was the mistake of the constitutional framers to not add such a important topic in our Indian constitution, but the mistake will be correcting right now by incorporating fundamental duties in our very Indian constitution. Though the Swaran Singh committee suggested the incorporation of 8 fundamental duties in the constitution, the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act included 10 fundamental rights. So they have only suggested 8 fundamental rights, but later it was made to 10 and then incorporated in the Indian constitution. Interestingly, certain recommendations of the committee were not accepted by the Congress party and hence not incorporated in the constitution. But there were also certain kind of recommendation that has been neglected or rejected by the uh, Congress government, and they are as follows. These include the Parliament may provide for the imposition of such punishment as may be considered appropriate for any non-compliance with or refusal to observe any of the duties. So one of the recommendation of the Swaran Singh committee was if any citizen fails to do their duty, the parliament has the power to punish them, which was rejected by the Congress government. The Congress government felt that incorporating a totally new chapter is itself a new thing. But above that, if we add penalty or punish to certain things for the citizen if they fails to do their duty would be more strict in nature. That's why they say that as of now we'll be only incorporating the fundamental duties. Later we will look upon whether we should add penalty or punishment for those people who were not abiding the uh, guidelines given by the constitution. No law imposing such penalty or punishment shall be called in question in any court on the ground of infringement of any of question any of fundamental rights or on ground of repugnancy to any other provision of the constitution. So this basically talks about exclusion of judicial review. The committee already suggested that the parliament can punish to the citizens who are not abiding the rules, and said that whatever the act they'll be calling upon, the act should not be questioned in any of the court, nor the citizen will be able to go to the court to justify their doing. So this also has been rejected by the government. Duty to pay taxes should also be a fundamental duty of the citizen. The committee further said that it should be the duty of the citizen to pay taxes, which was also rejected by the government. Let's move into the fundamental the duties that we have under Part 4, Article 51A. According to Article 51A, it shall be the duty of every citizen of India. So these duties are only for the citizens of India, not for any foreigners or any other people. If you are citizens of India only, then only it will be applicable for you to follow or to do such duties. So abide by the Constitution and respect its ideals and institutions, national flag and national anthem. So if we are citizens of India, it is our duty to respect our national anthem, our national flag, all our ideals, all our institutions who has given their blood, who has given their life to bring independence to us. To cherish and follow the noble ideals and inspire the national struggle for freedom. Again, it says that the people who has given their life to bring independence, we should be showing our respect to them. To uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity, and integrity of India, it is our duty to maintain sovereignty, to protect sovereignty, unity, and integrity of India. We should be living all together without having any kind of cruel intention towards each other. To defend the country and render national service when called upon to do so, it is our duty. When our country needs, we will be offering our service to protect its land, promote harmony and the spirit of common brotherhood amongst all the people of India, including religion, India, transcending religious, linguistic, and regional or sectional diversities, and to renounce practices derogatory to the dignity of women. It is our duty to maintain brotherhood. It is our duty to behave equally towards all, be it we should not differentiate anyone based on their caste, religion, culture, to value and preserve the rich heritage of the country's composite culture. So, rich heritage, whatever we have, Qutub Minar, Taj Mahal. So, this is our duty to preserve and protect them. We should not go there and write Tina loves Rajiv, Rajiv loves Tina in those, stone statues. We should not do that. We should be protecting for our next generation because they were our culture, to protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, rivers, and wildlife, and to have compassion for living creatures. So, it is our duty to safeguard the natural environment, including the lake, rivers. We should not be polluting them. We should preserve and we should safeguard it for our future generation to enjoy. And also, we should have uh, compassion for living creatures. We should be humble towards the creatures, be it a cat, be it a dog, be it other creatures. We should be humble. To develop scientific temper, humanism, and spirit of inquiry and reform. Now, this sentence has a kind of what do I say? Not understandable for the common people, but it has a very simple meaning. It says to develop scientific temper, we should not go forward for something which is what was andvishwas, that is kala jadoo. We should not go for such thing. We always inquire whether it has a scientific reason behind it. We should always have a spirit of inquiry. If something is happening, rather than accepting it as a kala jadoo, we should be inquiring why it is happening. Is there any logical reason behind it? To safeguard public property and to absorb violence. When we talk about public property, it would be the uh, bus stands, it would be the local government hospital, it would be another another public property. So we should not be destroying it. For example, if you have seen the movie Nayak, it was a very famous movie. So during a rally or something, the violence there were violence and people were firing the buses and destroying public property. That should not be happening. We should not do something which will be destroying the public property. Then we have to strive towards excellence in all spheres of individual and collective activity so that the nation constantly rises to higher levels of independent achievement. So it is also our duty to go forward and to try to develop 1% better every day. It would be good for ourselves also, and it would be better for the country as well. For example, if we are participating in a race and there is a two member, it is A and B. So if A wins, it would be a development for him and for the country as well. But while doing so, if A, in order to win the race, pushes B and B falls, that should not be happening. We should always look forward for some positive outcome that will only be good for both of the person and the country. Provide opportunities for education to child or work between the age of 6 and 14 years. That compulsory education should be there, because without education a person cannot have a better personality, or education is important in order to live in the society, in order to understand things. This duty was added by the 86th Constitutional Amendment Act 2002. So it was not added earlier, it was added by 86th Amendment Act 2002. So it may come an MCQ question that the duty to provide opportunities for education to his child or work comes by which amendment act? It would be 86th Amendment Act, not on 32nd. So let's have some features of the fundamental rights. So when we talk about basically features, if we talk about a girl, so in such matters, the features will talk about how her chins are, how her eyes are, how her lips are, how her body is, how her personality. That is the feature that a person have. So just like that, fundamental duties also have certain feature in it. So now we will be understanding what are the features of the fundamental duties. Following points can be noted with regard to the characteristics of the fundamental duties. So if the question comes as the features or characteristic, you can answer the same points because they mean the same thing. Some of them are moral duties while others are civic duties. Some of them are moral duties. For example, having compassion for other creatures, to maintain brotherhood, uh, to have compassion for living creature. These are some moral duties, and civic duties we have to respect our flag, to have national anthem. So these are civic duties. For instance, cherishing noble ideals of freedom struggle is a moral precept, and respecting the constitution, national flag and national anthem is civic duty. So basically it has divided what are the moral duties and what are the civic duties that should be followed by the Indian citizen. They refer to such values which have been a part of the Indian tradition, mythology, religious, and practices. So it basically says that whatever has been incorporated here, be it respecting our freedom fighters, be it respecting our noble spirits, be it respecting our institution, it all came from our religious scriptures. If we talk about Ramayana, Mahabharata, if we talk about Christianity, if we talk about Mohammedan, in every book there are some moral lesson that have been inserted into it, that we should show our respect towards elders, we should talk good with our youngsters, we should be respecting the teachers, we should have compassion for the other living creatures. So these all are something that we are all familiar with, but it is not in a codified format, it is not in a structured manner. So we have only those lessons we have incorporated in the list of fundamental duties. They are not something which is alien to us, they have been always there, but now we have make it more structured for people to understand. In other words, they essentially contain just the codification of tasks integral to the Indian way of life. As I said, they were already there. Now we have only structured them into a proper list under a proper article. Unlike some of the fundamental rights which extend to all persons, whether citizens or foreigners, the fundamental duties are confined to citizens only and do not extend to foreigners. As I said, the duties are for the citizens only. It is not for the foreigners to follow. If they wanted to respect our flag, it is very good, but if they cannot disrespect it. And it is not bound for them to follow the duties. It is for the citizens only. Like the directive principle, the fundamental duties are also non-justiciable. That means if someone violates it, you cannot go for the court to say that this person is not compassionate towards the living creatures and violating his duties, because the nature of fundamental duties is non-justiciable. They are already there as a reminder. It is up to you whether you follow or not. There is no such act or there is no such punishment prescribed that if you do not do your duty, I'll bring you to the court, because they are non-justiciable in nature. But when the parliament feels that there should be some act for the people, if they deny those duties, they'll be punishable, then only it will be justiciable. The constitution does not provide for their direct enforcement by the court. As I said, if someone is not doing their duty, you cannot call that person directly to the court. Moreover, there is not legal sanction against their violation. There is no punishment prescribed under any of act. However, the parliament is free to enforce them by suitable legislation. As I said, if parliament feels this is the need of the hour, they can bring such act. Let's move into the criticism of fundamental right duties. So, one good thing about Indian polity is in mostly all of the chapters you will be getting this criticism, because when you write an answer, if you can add some criticism, it looks your answer more rich in nature. So always try to add certain criticism, certain quote by famous figures. So let's have the criticism. The fundamental duties mentioned in Part 4 of the Constitution have been criticized on the following grounds. So these are the ground on what basis the fundamental duties have been criticized. The list of duties is not exhaustive, as it does not cover other important duties like casting vote, paying taxes, family planning, so on. So these are also duties, but they are not added in the fundamental duties. That's why some critics say the list of the fundamental rights is exhaustive, because not all the duties is included into that list. In fact, duty to pay taxes were recommended by the Swaran Singh committee. Even the Swaran Singh committee recommended that this should be included, but the Congress government denied that, because in that period people were not that much financially stable to pay taxes, and also the fundamental duties is all itself a new thing. Therefore, if we make it more strict for people, then it would be impossible for them to adhere to it. That's why they rejected just recommendation. Some of the duties are vague, ambiguous, and difficult to be understood by the common man. As I said, some of the sentences are given in such a manner that it is not possible for common people to understand. It feels like the Shakespeare has itself noted down as fundamental duty, and it is not possible for anyone or any normal people to understand that in the first read itself. For example, different interpretation can be given to the phrase like noble ideals. What does that mean by noble ideals? Some people may follow Mahatma Gandhi, some people may follow the people who show their courage and bravery by blasting bombs. They can be noble for some other people. So this term has not been identified or clarified in a more proper way. It has been given to the citizen, it has been given to the people, that it's up to you how you want to interpret that particular sentence. That is composite culture. What that does mean, composite culture? So that is a vague. And again, scientific temper. So these are some very difficult terms for people to understand, and so on. They have been described by the critics as a code of moral precept due to their non-justiciable character. As I said, they're there for the sake of it. If anyone don't feel like not doing their duty, they cannot be punishable, because they are not non justiciable. You cannot bring a person to the court just because he is not abiding his duties. Interestingly, the Swaran Singh committee had suggested for penalty or punishment for the non-performance of fundamental duties. But again, the Swaran Singh committee has said that there should be punishment, but the government has denied that no, okay, people are free to do their duties if they are willing to do so. Their inclusion in the constitution was described by the critics as superfluous. That is something is bara chara ke bolna. That's what it meant by the meaning of superfluous. This is because the duties included in the constitution as fundamental would be performed by the people even though they were not incorporated in the constitution. So this is another criticism. The critics say that the inclusion of fundamental duties as an appendage to Part 4 of the Constitution has reduced their value and significance. They should have been added after Part 3 so as to keep them on par with fundamental rights. So, another critic said that the duties should be along with fundamental rights. As I said, एक ही सिक्के के दो पहलू. Then it would have some meaning. But the structured position is reducing the very importance of fundamental right itself. So this is another point given by the critics. Now let's understand the significance of fundamental duties. In spite of criticism and opposition, the fundamental duties are considered significant from the following viewpoints. So these are the reasons. They serve as a reminder to the citizens that while enjoying their rights, they should also be conscious of duties they owe to their country, their society, and to their fellow citizens. As it says, the fundamental duties works as a reminder to the people that if you are enjoying certain rights, you should be doing your duty as well. That stands as a reminder in our Indian Constitution. They serve as a warning against the anti-national and anti-social activities like burning the national flag, destroying public property, and so on. As I gave example, you know, of the movie of Nayak, there were such scene that has been showcased to us. So if the person who were citizens of India, if they have read those fundamental duties, maybe they will change their mind and will not do something which will be, violating their duties. They serve as a source of inspiration for the citizens and promote a sense of discipline and commitment among them. It says if we maintain brotherhood, if we have compassion for our living creatures, it will bring a good personality of us. They create a feeling that the citizens are not mere spectators but active participants in the realization of national goals. Spectators mean the audience. So it says that the citizens are not something that there are some rights they are enjoying it, but by doing their duties they are making themselves a part of the country, a part of our Indian Constitution. They help the courts in examining and determining the constitutional validity of a law. In 1992, the Supreme Court ruled that in determining the constitutionality of any law, if a court finds that the law in question seeks to give effect to a fundamental duty, it may consider such law to be reasonable in relation to Article 14, is equality before law, and Article 19, 6 freedoms, and thus save such law from unconstitutionality. As it says, the duties are there for people to follow. There are not any acts, if any person is not following their duty, they'll be punishable. But if Parliament brings any act and it has a relation with the fundamental duties, then it would not be violative of Article 14 and 19. That is what this paragraph meant, and that is what the ruling of the Supreme Court in the year of 1992. They are enforceable by law. Hence, the Parliament can provide for the imposition of appropriate penalty or punishment for failure to fulfill any of them. This is what I exactly said just now. It's Sir Gokhale, the then law minister, gave the following reason for incorporating fundamental rights in the Constitution after 26 years of its inauguration. So, it's Sir Gokhale, the then law minister, have quoted regarding the importance of adding them into our very constitution. And he says, in post-independent India, particularly on the evening of emergency in June 1975. In 1975, for the first time, we had emergency. So at this point, you have to remember during the Indira Gandhi government. A section of the people showed no anxiety to fulfill their fundamental obligation of respecting the established legal order. The provisions of chapter on fundamental duties would have a sobering the provisions of chapter of duties would have a sobering effect on these restless spirits who have had a host of anti-national, subversive, and unconstitutional agitation in the past. So this is for some people who are not, you know, following our rules, were not aware of their duties. So these fundamental duties are for such people, or to make them realize that you are citizens of India, therefore you should or you have to show some respect towards its duties, rights, and all other stuff that has been mentioned in our Indian Constitution. Indira Gandhi, the then Prime Minister, justified the inclusion of fundamental duties in the Constitution and argued that their inclusion would help to strengthen democracy. So Indira Gandhi also, agreed to the inclusion of fundamental duties, and it says that it will be good for the betterment of the government, for the betterment of the country. They say the moral value of fundamental duties should not be to smoother rights but to establish a democratic balance. So this remark has been given by Indira Gandhi, the then Prime Minister. So you can add this remark, or you can also add H.R. Gokhale's remark, that is the law minister, that was the law minister, by making the people conscious of their duties equally as they're conscious of their rights. So this is the remark given by that Prime Minister. The opposition in the parliament strongly opposed the inclusion of fundamental rights, duties in the constitution by the Congress government. So it is the duty of the opposition to go against anything that has been made by the government. Again, that has been happened in that past itself. However, the new junta government headed by Morarji Desai in the post-emergency period did not emulate the fundamental duties. But regarding the fundamental duties, there were no such opposition at that time. Notably, the new government sought to undo many changes introduced in the Constitution by 42nd Amendment Act 1976, the 43rd Amendment Act 1977, and the 44th Amendment Act 1978. So these are the amendments that has been made by the next government. This shows that there was an eventual consensus on the necessity and desirability of including the fundamental duties of the Constitution. But the next government also feels that it is good if we keep that fundamental duties in their Constitution. It would be good for the government, it would be good for the country as well. This is more clear with the addition of one more fundamental duty in 2002 by the 86th Amendment Act. So this I have already described, that one duties has been later added, that is by 2002 86 amendment. Now let us move into Burma Committee observations. The Burma Committee on Fundamental Duties of the Citizen in the year of 1999 identified the existence of legal provision for the implementation of some of the fundamental duties. So till now we have been saying that the duties that have been given, they are non-justiciable in nature. But for some duties, if you do not do so, there are some punishment that can punish you. Then we have the Prevention of Insult to National Honor Act 1971, prevent disrespect to the Constitution of India, the national flag, and the national anthem. So we have some proper acts on what basis we can, arrest you. We can give you punishment. That is, if you disrespect the Constitution of India, that is the very core of our country, national flag and national anthem. The various criminal laws in force provide for the punishment for encouraging enmity between different sections of people on grounds of language, race, place of birth, religion, and so on. For this also we have a particular act. If you try to, you know, uh, if you try to, make people fight based on the different cultures, then also you'll be punishable under certain. The Protection of Civil Rights Act 1955 provides for punishment for offences related to caste and religion. Then we have the IPC. Back we have IPC. Now we have BNS and all other stuff. Declares the imputation and assertion prejudicial to national integration as punishable offences. Then we have the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act of 1967 provides for the declaration of a communal organized as an unlawful association. Then we have the Representations of People Act 1951 provides for the disqualification of members of parliament or a state legislature for indulging in corrupt practice. So this is for MLA and MPs. This is soliciting votes on the ground of religion or promoting enmity between different sections of people on grounds of caste, race, language, religion, and so on. So what we see during the election period, people come for votes to say that please give me your vote, I'll bring this, I'll change this. But if doing so, any of the member promises that if you give me your vote, I'll erase all the Muslim community from here. If you give me your vote, I'll erase all the Hindu communities from here. So this kind of comment, this kind of activities is strictly prohibited, and you cannot buy anyone's vote by giving them money. So if someone happens to do so, then under this act they are punishable. The Wildlife Protection Act of 1972 prohibits trade in rare and endangered species. So it says that you cannot trade rare and endangered species which are, harassing from our culture. For example, Assam is famous for one horned rhino. So if any person is trading that, if any person is keeping that in his house, they will also be punishable. Then we have the Forest Conservation Act 1980 checks indiscriminate deforestation and the erosion of forest land and non-forest purposes. So again, you can refer this movie to Pushpa, which is famous for deforesting and cutting the big trees. So it says that under this act, it checks indiscriminate deforestation and the erosion of forest land and non-forest purposes. So this is all about the Verma Committee observation. So in this video, I have tried the fundamental duties that has been mentioned in the Indian polity itself. So if you found this video worth watching, please do share, like, and subscribe so that it motivates me to bring more such chapters, much more such updates for you. So that's all for today. Thank you for watching the video.